Yo, what's up guys? Sergio here and welcome to the Protect Your Legacy channel. As promised, I told you guys we're going to be having a special guest, none other than my beautiful wife, Krysten Loaiza. She is a first most wife and second most a mom of two. After that, she is an entrepreneur, fitness instructor, and tons of other things. But today, former fitness instructor, but future to be, because we've got some stuff coming in that space soon. But with that said, we just wanted to jump on today, guys, and I wanted to seek her perspective on what Protect Your Legacy means to her. She has no idea what we're going to be talking about. I'm just going to be asking questions and getting her perspective. So without further ado, let's do it. Let's jump into it. All right, Krysten, wife, mother, mom of two. So tell me this. I had told everybody before that I was just going to ask you your perspective on Protect Your Legacy. I didn't prep you for anything because I wanted it to be raw. So like when it comes to Protect Your Legacy and the three things that embodies Protect Your Legacy, which is obviously our mind, protecting our mind and passing that stuff on to our kids. The good things, hopefully, protecting our family, whether it's through insurance or just protecting our family in general. And then obviously equally as important, protecting our income now, our hard-earned income now, and then our future income so that our kids start at a higher level. So with all that in mind, when you think of the phrase protect your legacy, what does that mean to you?
Well, you've asked me this question before, and I haven't dove like super deep into thought about it, but just as we're talking about it now, I go back to probably about a year ago.
Okay.
A little over a year ago, right before I found out I was pregnant with Kai, our youngest. And I just had this overwhelming thought of like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do if something happens to Sergio? Like, God forbid, what am I going to do? Like, I am a stay-at-home mom. I like make fun money, but it's definitely not enough to like provide for a family,
right,
and uphold our current lifestyle.
Right.
And I almost had like this moment of panic. So when you talk about like protecting your mind, obviously never letting fear creep in.
That's awesome. That's good.
But and I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I can't live in fear of this. But and the Lord's always gonna, take care of us. But then that's right around the same time that you found infinite banking.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't really like truly understand the power of it. And so I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool. Like Sergio's going to sell insurance, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I like, as you continue talking about it, I was like, this is our safety net.
Right.
Like this is what is going to protect our legacy if anything happens to us. And so to me, like when I think about protecting our legacy, whether I realized it or not until this point, like I've been through this whole mental journey of like, what is protecting our legacy and how are we going to do it? And so to me, it's number one, protecting your mind from the fear of, what am I going to do if something happens to me? Like, what are my kids going to do?
Significant others.
Or what am I going to do if something happens to you?
Right.
So not letting that fear overwhelm me or overwhelm any of us.
Right.
Teaching our kids not to let that fear overwhelm them, but also like setting ourselves up to, if God forbid something happen, they're protected, they're taken care of, or I'm taken care of, or you're taken care of, So to me, at this point in our life, that's like really what it means to protect our legacy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. And I know obviously like a lot of times when people hear insurance, they think insurance is boring. And it's just like, hey, your regular term life, I'm paying, a small little fee in case something were to happen. And I'll get into that stuff in later videos. But we're talking about something really exciting here, guys. We're talking about not your typical insurance, and it's just part of the movement of protecting your legacy. Right. This is lack of information base, and meaning that most people just don't know what they don't know, and it's so interesting to understand that we're talking about creating a family banking system that has a death benefit attached to it. so that if something were to happen, like you're talking about, everybody's protected. But hey, guess what? I'm not looking to go anywhere soon. All right. I love my life, and I'm praying and hoping that nobody in my life goes anywhere soon.
But it's important to be prepared.
Right. It is. So, okay. Well, so on those 3 pillars, which one, I mean, you obviously just hit on probably the, the life benefit things of protecting your legacy. When it comes to, and you hit on all of them, but which one is probably, if there's one more important, maybe there isn't one more important, but those 3 pillars of protecting your mind, protecting your family, which we kind of just talked about, and then protecting your income. Why don't you hit on this? I would love, because I mean, you're one of the strongest women I know, especially through what we just went through, and we'll share that story maybe on a later video. But with our baby boy Kai, just I'll let her share it. But we just went through a tough season, and obviously you had been preparing your mind to be able to battle almost anything, because in my opinion, this is one of the hardest things that a family could try to overcome, especially in their mind. So share a little bit about that when it comes to like protecting your mind.
So do you want me to dive into what we
I don't know. Talk to. Well, I mean, you don't have to tell the whole story. We can do a separate video where we dive into the whole story. Yeah. But just talk a little bit about like the preparation, like the things that you've done in personal development to prepare your mind, so that when something like this happened, you were able to handle it.
Yeah. Well, I think fear is the number one enemy of anyone. And I say that because when you think about anything, the only time it causes anxiety is when you become fearful, or when you start to think of what could happen, this could happen or that could happen, like future outcomes that haven't even happened yet that are out of your control anyway.
There's a really cool acronym about fear. I'll add it to the video so you guys know it, but it's talking about fear is something in the future that hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah.
Right.
And so to me, and this is something that you actually walked me through when we were dating, is okay, think of the absolute worst possible outcome. What if that happens? What are you going to do? And then you just have to let it go. Okay, life would move on. I would have to move on with my life, obviously you don't want the worst case scenario to happen, but you do have to move on with life, and whatever's supposed to happen will happen. And so,
and that's called being a realistic optimist.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, so our son was born with a congenital heart defect called TGA. You can look it up, transposition of the great arteries. He had to have open heart surgery at 2 weeks old. And I had him at home, not knowing any of this. And
disclaimer, stay tuned for that story, because that entire journey we'll go into the birth story. We'll go into the entire journey of that, and that'll be a whole roller coaster of emotions.
So anyways, when my midwife came to check his vitals, she saw that his oxygen was really low, and that's what kind of triggered our whole journey of going to the hospital and all of that. And when literally the words out of her mouth that sparked the most fear in me was, "You need to go to the emergency room right now." And there was so much fear that just welled up. And, I started crying, obviously. I'm newly, freshly postpartum. I have all of these things happening in my home, all this change. Hormones are crazy, and then I have this newborn baby that I have no idea what's going to happen to him. And at that point, and I think this is what you have to do anytime that there's fear, because I started with, fear is the number one enemy of our mind. Fear is the thing that keeps us from doing most things in life.
Everything, yep.
And I had the thought of you know what? I've just got to take it minute by minute right now. I've just got to take each minute as it comes. I couldn't even think about the next hour or the next 2 hours or the next day. I was I've got to take each minute as it comes and do the next right thing. I've got to just make the next right decision for this baby. And I think in a lot of situations in life, that's what we have to do.
Right.
say it's something like you are scared to make that business decision, or you're scared to like jump into that next thing. Well, what's the next right decision? Like, what do you need to do next? It may not be jumping into that business. It may be talking to a mentor.
Yeah.
It may be opening up your Bible or like praying. It may be asking a family member who is in a similar industry, like, what is your best advice?
Yeah.
So I think it all comes down to when you're thinking about protecting your mind. I think the best protection mechanism is asking yourself, what is my next right decision?
Right.
And not allowing fear to dictate that next decision, allowing logic and, in our opinion, the Holy Spirit to dictate that next decision.
Because we're people of faith, and I always tell people there's a big difference between reacting to a situation and responding. Mm-hmm. And the level of maturity that a person has is based on their level of ability to actually respond and not react to a situation. So I just know in that situation, we responded. We didn't react because...
Well, and the reason that we were able to make the next right decision is because we had the right people in place to help us with those. AKA my midwife. I said, what should I do? She was like, I'm going to call an ambulance for you. Yeah. I said, okay, that's the next right decision. We had that protection around us of people who could help us make those next decisions, even when we didn't know what to do.
And that's the thing. But even when you don't know what to do, I think I always go back to like the root psychology of it, is that we have the choice. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a choice. And if you're not practicing your ability to make good choices and good decisions, then when stuff hits the fan, however some people choose to say that, when stuff hits the fan, then ultimately most people just, they just react. Everything's a reaction and it's not a response. They don't really think about what they did or what they're going to do and how they're going to respond to the situation. So, I mean, that's something that I'm super proud of you about in that space of like just emotional stability, mental stability. I think you obviously handled that tremendously, and I believe I did as well. As a team, we did. So that's awesome. But let's end with this because I want people that they got a little bit of your perspective around protecting your mind, a little bit of your perspective around protecting your our family, obviously through insurance and specifically a properly designed whole life, right? We're talking about properly designed whole life. Now let's talk a little bit about the income portion of it. Like when we say infinite banking, most people don't know what that is. I'm gonna put a little video back up here. So. When most people talk about infinite banking, they don't know what we're talking about. So explain a little bit from your perspective on kind of what that is.
So when I first heard about infinite banking, and you may hear our little guy, he's playing on the floor here.
Our legacy, our true legacy, right? Yeah. That's one of our portions of our true legacy.
When I first heard about infinite banking, obviously, like I was like, oh yeah, life insurance. Like we already have a life insurance policy, like. But why are we getting another one? So I didn't really fully understand the benefits and the power behind the infinite banking model. But when you started explaining it, I was like...
Keep talking. I'm going to grab this little guy and bring him in.
I was like... I started to understand more. I started to understand like the true power of, we're making our money like truly work for us. We are like... basically creating our own banking system.
Yep.
And we are eventually going to be able to borrow from ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like we will be the lender.
Right.
And not the borrower.
100%.
And we will be able to pay ourselves back on what we...
Bless you, little guy.
We will be able to pay ourselves back on what we borrow from ourselves.
Right.
And so not only does that gave me confidence in like what our future looks like, but also like if something does happen,
right?
Like if we have a bunch of medical expenses that we need money for,
which we do, and we'll talk about that as well.
Like we can borrow from ourselves and then pay ourselves back and put that into a policy for him, and so his medical debt now becomes an asset to him.
Amen to that.
So when I truly started to like understand the power of that model, I was like, oh my goodness, like this could not only set us up for an amazing future, but it can set our kids up for
generations.
An amazing lifetime.
Yeah.
You know. So.
No, I love that explanation. Like I said, guys, I didn't prep Krysten for any of this.
I had no idea what we were
She had no idea what we were going to talk about, and I love that explanation. So, I mean, if you've made it this far through the video, I mean, hopefully you've gotten a lot of value, because this is just the beginning of us sharing our story and our journey together as an infinite banking family. Meaning that, like, our goal is to create a family banking system. A family banking system. This guy wants to be on camera. I'm going to pass him over to Krysten. Here you go, you little nugget. So our goal is to create a family banking system that we can then teach this mindset to our future generation, this little guy and his big brother. And so here's the thing. It's lack of knowledge. It all comes back to lack of knowledge and the fact that most of us has just never been taught. We'll do another video in the future where I'll do a deep dive on some of the best books that have radically shifted my mindset and Chris's mindset around the idea of the psychology of money and ultimately really just understanding money in a way that doesn't get taught in the traditional education. And that's really what it comes down to, is that most of us just don't know what we don't know. And our parents, whoa, are you excited? And our parents, unfortunately, didn't know either. So how can we expect somebody to teach us something that they never learned themselves? So my goal, once again, our family's goal through this channel and everybody that we bring on that's going to share their mindset is to show you how to truly walk out protecting your legacy long term for not only your generation, but future generations to come. And once again, those three pillars are so vital of protecting your legacy. You got to protect your mind, which is the most important thing in my opinion, because if you don't protect your mind, what good is having all the money in the world if you don't know how to manage it, if you don't know how to really think through it? And then your family. If you can't protect your family, if you're not here and they're not here, then what's the matter to have a bunch of money? I can't tell you how many stories of multi-millionaires that pass away, and where does their money go to? Well, thankfully it goes to a charity or something, but they have nobody left because they didn't do the right steps. And then the last one is obviously the income that I was talking about. So any final thoughts, as we're wrapping up about like the idea of protecting your legacy and what do you think it's going to do for other families?
Yeah, I think it could radically change the trajectory of other families' lives. I know it's done that for us. Just in the year and a half?
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years that we've really been implementing the system. I think it can really just change so many people's lives. I know we've had so many conversations about this, but just we are so excited for the ability to not just help our own family, but also help so many other families set up like a legacy asset, legacy wealth for their families. And it's just incredible, what we've been learning and the way that we're going to be able to help people.
Yeah. And we're just getting started, guys. So this is the beginning of the journey. We wanted to document it all. So once again, right here, we're going to show you guys how to do this for your family. It's protect your legacy, not our legacy. Protect your legacy for you and your family. And these little nuggets. So we love you guys. Stay tuned till the next video. I'll let you guys know who the next guest is. Let's do it. We're out.